Alright, we've got another trike in the shop. This one doesn't need to be converted to a Metro because it already was. It's running the Raven redrive, for those of you familiar with it. Looks like it's got a Raven exhaust, Raven drive, Raven flywheel. I thought a Raven flywheel had holes in it, like the style that I build, but maybe not. He doesn't care about weight that much. I thought he did, because it is a UL 1000. Yeah. Okay. So just going over it. Looks like it's got a Volkswagen Rabbit radiator. It's running an aluminum adapter plate for the starter. It's running a stock starter, stock flywheel. It's running an intake manifold, and I can tell it used to have an EGR system on it, and they ground it off and welded it all up, or just ground it off. You know, they had to weld up the port, I guess. The radiator caps moved to the top of the system here. It's running the standard Metro distributor. I've got to run the number on the computer, but it's got a different, it's got two different wiring harnesses, or two different systems in here. It's running like a late model temp sending unit in the air cleaner. It's running an early style map sensor, it looks like. It has no idle air control box on here or idle air control motor, and I can tell by this intake throttle body that besides all the caps are on it, this must be like 1989 to 1991 is my guess, and the air cleaner must be off like a 94-ish rig. And obviously got a late model valve cover on it. The air cleaner is the Raven redrive. For a little weight savings, they've machined off the air conditioning pulley off the front crank pulley. Probably didn't rebalance it, but it's probably okay. Maybe. I think the balancing was actually on the front of that pulley, so it probably should be rebalanced. Where are we at on this? Basically, it's in because it runs like crap, and it's in limp mode because somebody that did this had no idea what they were doing. They didn't realize that the computer is instantly in limp mode, and there's no way, they have no idle control for the motor. It really is a mess. So we're going to swap out to the right year of everything. And I think what I'm going to do is match it up to the existing computer, and probably somewhere up here in one of these lights, if it's not already in there, maybe one of those reds or yellows or ambers there, but we're going to install a check engine light. And it has no thermostat in the system, so it won't get up over about 140 degrees when he's flying it. And he's having a problem getting over like, I think he said 300 or 400 foot of climb. And so when it's running right, and the motor's wore out, it's got like a $150, if I remember right, on the compression when we did it. So we're going to do a hill climber head on it, and we're going to bore it out, make it all brand new again, rebalance it. I was going to change the radiator out to a stock Metro radiator, but because I don't really like this style of radiator in this application, or at least I thought I didn't. And I did a little research over the last couple of days, and I don't see any reason why it shouldn't work just fine. So we're going to leave that there. And then I think what we're going to try to do is use this exhaust manifold again. I'd really rather have a header on it and put a muffler on it, but that is such an easy to work with issue. You get all these harmonic balances and air imbalances, and things crack and fall off, and well, in all honesty, they don't seem to have any problem with these tin cans. They're trying to copy a Rotax can in looks. It's just a log, obviously, but it's a big enough chamber that I don't think it has much restriction, and it's such a small motor and the pipes are so big already. I think we're okay with it. I'm not too worried about it. I wouldn't be surprised if it's not really a factor in the in it at all. Well, it's a nice trike. It's a little heavy. It's all steel. What else? Seems like there's a couple other things I have written down on my list that I don't have. But I wonder why the belt's not a little snug. Yeah, this is pretty much it. So it's been repowered already. I can't remember what it had on it before. I think this thing's only putting out 50 to 75% of what it should. So we'll see when he gets some when it's all new again. See if we get that climb so he can get out over the trees faster from his airport, and just kind of go from there. I'm not looking to do anything fancy with it. I'm really just after reliability. So we're gonna go with our long engine life block, that titanium hone done to it, and then hill climber head, stock NPR rings in it, and a micro polished crankshaft. And so I'm not going to do anything more to it than I would do for somebody that wanted to drive their commuter car forever, except for since this is going to be under a load, we're going to use the hill climber head instead of MPG head, because we're not after fuel economy. He wants to pull the pass kind of in this, and that's kind of like having your little 4x8 trailer hooked up to the Metro and racing over the pass. We're after that same kind of pull. There's really no difference there, and we'll just make it all new and it'll just work better. But most importantly, we're going to fix this wiring harness. Just whoever worked on it just didn't understand that you couldn't just willy-nilly plug in anything you wanted and take off what you didn't want. I'm amazed anybody was flying it this way. But what else? I think that's pretty much it. I'm going to update the timing cover by removing most of it. I want to make that part of his pre-flight so you can see the tensioner and the timing belt, just like when you're pre-flight your car and you're at the gas station. You can pop that hood open. If you don't know what I'm talking about, watch some of my videos. But we're definitely going to get rid of that cover and update it so you can see inside there. But as far as when we go, I don't have many airplane videos up on the website. I think most of them are probably hovercraft. They don't do anything different on the airplanes. You'd be surprised how automotive conversions onto aircraft are virtually bone stock for the most part, and then they'll carry some kind of a bearing here. Obviously, we come off this crank. These are the crank bolts extended out on this pulley, and then this is an eccentric bearing right here, a cammed bearing. This, as you can twist it off centers and tensions this belt, and this would be like a belt and gear setup you'd use on a blower, like on a top fuel dragster. I'm guessing that belt's good for, I have no idea if it was on a dragster. I'd say it's probably good to, geez, who knows, 1,500 horsepower or something. I have no idea. I just know that a top fuel dragster has a 6,000 horsepower engine, and they used to run one or two of these, and then they went to one, if I remember right. So that belt's way stronger than you might think, and it has probably a virtual fail proof on this rig if everything's set up right. And then you'll see the extension that's put on here. This is to get over past the distributor here, And then Raven Redrive offers another distributor here where he comes off and puts the distributor, where is it mounted? Anyhow, it points the other direction, and then the propeller can be bolted on right here, or it can be bolted onto the bottom and be direct drive. But going through this gear ratio, which looks to me like a, is it 2.5? Oh, this might be a 3-to-1, I'm not sure. That'd be nice if it is. This gear ratio, if you go to direct drive, you run a lot smaller propeller when you have to turn it a lot faster. So you want to swing a big stick, a big propeller, as slow as you can, and this is what makes it happen. So let's take a quick walk around. I can use this for a reference. Dun, 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 dun. Cooling system, coils, fuel tank, seat. Took a little bit of work to find that fresh air on the front to run a speedometer. Airspeed on that. Couldn't find clean air till they got all the way out there. That was probably a lot of work on somebody's part. I fought that many a time on an ultralight. Finding that spot out in front with clean air. You get into certified airplanes and it's already figured out for you. What it does is it's just like a one on a boat where it would run water into it, and the pressure behind it tells you, it pushes the needle up to speed. Same thing, just air pressure pushes it up. And then obviously, because you can't fly without it, you've got your airworthiness certificate inside the cockpit. And that's it. And then this is a powered hang glider. If you weren't sure, a lot of people look at it and probably were thinking a gyro, but this is where the wing fits on here. And I can't remember what he says. He flies on a 17 or a 19 meter wing. So I'm guessing he's probably, I can't remember what he said for a wing, but it's probably somewhere in the around 100 mile an hour cruise or something, 100 knots. Okay, we'll just put this up on the website as raw video for on YouTube, and we'll use it for a reference if we need it. And I'm more interested in if I get it apart as I'm putting it back together, since it's not done correctly, just seeing how they had it done. Especially on some of these parts they've made, if you've noticed, there's no neck here for the thermostat. It's built into this housing here, and the thing never had a radiator thermostat installed. Without coming up to temperature, the car won't shift over into a closed loop, so you can never use the sensors on the vehicle, or I should say the plane. And they're trying to, this is your EGR port on a car normally. Here's something interesting for the auto guys that aren't 100%. That's your EGR port in your head that normally gets carboned up, so your exhaust manifold goes over. And in fact, I'm going to walk over and show you. Hey Chris, where's the, I just want to get a quick shot of this head you're building on the EGR. Let me just sneak in over your shoulder. So you've got the EGR port, well, virtually you got your EGR here. The port is tight in the exhaust manifold. I guess I need to be on the other side of the bench. Dun, dun, dun. So when you're looking at this head, that EGR port right there, that little bump is the exhaust gas going to the corner of the head, and then it goes across to the other side. So then if we take and come over to this side right here, that little bump would be right here, and then they tap it and plug it, and that's a exhaust port normally across. That would come across to the EGR that you can see has been ground off of here and removed, and it would travel, well, basically this intake manifold would reach all the way over here like we just saw, and there'd be an EGR here, and all the EGR emissions that are missing are up here. Well, what they do is they plug that, and then they run the water line from the bottom of the intake manifold up and into the EGR, up inside here, because they needed to tap into the water port on the head, because you've got the water being pushed through from the head gasket going, I'm going to use my hand, water comes from the water pump back to block, and then up to the radiator, to the top radiator hose. So instead they went, well, I gotta be honest with you, I'm actually a bit confused, but I actually don't know which way it flows. I will tell you there, I'm not 100% sure. I've got, how is that flowing? It goes bam, down, in. Well, it has to be flowing down, because you've got the intake over here coming off the bottom one for inside the water pump, pressurizes the system and pushes through. I just don't understand how you have an entry and an exit. Hold on, then you go through the intake manifold. You grab the bypass to the base so you don't have any freezing in your intake manifold. You grab the top of the manifold, because you're supposed to have a temperature sending unit up here, which is right here. That preheats that, so that tells the computer what the intake, that the intake is up to temperature. I believe that, yeah, then that's the ECM intake temperature, that's the ECM air temperature. Then we're missing a line over here. That's the vacuum to the brakes. That's vacuum to the purge canisters. Relays to the purge canister. So that'll be your fuel system. Ventilation. You should have one of these that goes down to that port. Okay. Oh, this is just really old. This must be off like an 89. So this is really, really old. So this should have the control solenoid sitting right here. The little muffler that goes on top of the vacuum canister that plugs into what should be a little hole up underneath here. It should plug into this unit right here, which has been plugged with a vacuum cap. And there should be that solenoid there, and it vibrates the intake leak into the port and gives it idle air control. And then these are just your heater lines that would go into the car. And I don't understand, except for that maybe they needed flow. One thing we learned on the Mini Cooper that's online, that you can't put a control valve in your, when you're using a GeoMetro in a kit application or a non-standard application. If you go to a heater core off the lines, you can't put a control valve in that closes. The Geo just opens and closes the baffles in the dash. There's actually no heater control valve. If you stop it, the flow stops in the intake manifold, and then the temperature drops because it can't get the fluid fuel, the hot water can't keep passing through, so it cools it off. Then the temperature sending unit on the top here, that starts to hunt, and then it makes the surge, so you'll get the it's just like being low on coolant in a Metro, where it goes brr, 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 and so this must be just something that they did to just keep the water flowing, but in all honesty, I don't know why it's not just looped. I don't know why they had to go through the work of putting it into the EGR. But I'll call Jerome up at Raven and find out. Because I'm not 100% familiar with it. I do recognize that part number, though. That's like a Volkswagen Rabbit. Isn't that scary when you can remember part numbers off of cars at random? What else do we got going on? I think that's probably going to be enough for me to get this thing ripped apart and see and make sure I get it put back together. Actually, I think I'm pretty much going to do a new harness up here. I've got a harness and a computer down there, and the goal was ultimately, if I have to, I'll build a new harness. But the wiring is done so nicely off this computer. I think if I have to build a harness, I think what I'll do is I'll just attach back to the harness and just put the clips, put the stuff back on it that's supposed to be there. And in fact, I gotta run the number on that ECM down there, but I think it's a late model ECM, probably like a 94. So I think I might end up with a the black idle air control box on the back of the intake, which means a new intake. And I'm already gonna go back and install the EGR system on it because I want that back there. You don't ever want to run with that if you don't, unless it's set up as a non-EGR with a non-EGR computer. But the EGR is always the best way to go, because that inert gas being dumped back into the exhaust system, into the intake system, really helps control the timing and ping and pre-detonation. And on an airplane with the propeller going, you couldn't hear it if it pinged. There's no way to hear the engine ping or rattle. So we want that EGR hooked up, because I don't want those exhaust valves turning red hot and liquefying. And you don't want that on your car either. When I say that, because I know most people watching these videos are doing stuff with their car. Yeah, so this is like an 89, and I can tell you exactly why it is. There's two, I don't know if you can see through, there's two vacuum ports on the front of the intake. And again, this thing's been welded up and sanded down, but there's supposed to be a gas filter port right there. And when I say gas filter port, it's a vacuum port, and that would go over to the distributor over here, and this would be a vacuum distributor with a distributor canister on it. And then this other port here in the front would come up, and that would pull the vacuum on, and the other one would pull the vacuum off, giving you advance and retard on the ignition system. So this must be like a 1994, and this must be like a 1989 over here. Pretty confident that I'm close. In fact, I'm going to grab a distributor, and because I'm already... Hey Chris, do we have a vacuum distributor up on top? I'm going to take a quick look. Oh, let's see, we've got a bunch of piled up parts here. We don't really keep track of all that well. Oh, this ladder's horrible. Thought maybe we'd have one of those old ancient distributors up here. Maybe one right there. No, that's like a 94. That's a valve cover for one. But no. Alright. Oh, I thought we'd have one pile. Oh, you know, they're probably in the other shop though. No, I was looking for an early, like 89 vacuum advance. I'm sure they're in the other building. Well, at any rate, they offered a distributor on an early rig that had vacuum advance on it, which is really cool because that means the computer doesn't control the vacuum advance at all. So if you have one of those cars where you go to set the timing on it, the timing won't lock out like it's supposed to, because that's super common. Instead of having the computer rebuilt, you could technically, if you wanted, drop a distributor in it, an early style one, and hook up the vacuum, and it won't use the vacuum advance, or it won't, when you're not using the computer, so the advance will work correctly. The other thing is, I went over this thing earlier, and I cannot find a place to jump the computer out to set the timing on it. So with having, there's no idle air control on this unit at all. They have the factory screw port here, but it doesn't work. But no way to actually set this distributor, because there's no place that they brought that ground port down for the out of the fuse panel on a late. It sits above the, not the fuse panel, above the strut on the driver's side of the car. I'll show you on another rig here really quick. you'd have this one right here. And you need that plug right there to round out the 2 terminals so you can set the timing. Whoa, excuse me, Chris. And that there is enough reasons why I can't believe anybody would even fly this, let alone some knuckleheads built this thing and sold it to this guy. They had no clue what they were doing. None whatsoever. In fact, I think it's just an old used tired motor that somebody powder coated. It might not even be powder coated, it might just be wrinkle paint. And I think as long as this wrinkle paint doesn't come off in the hot tank when we clean everything, I think we're going to rebore just this block so it still has that on there. Nobody needs that in their car, and I bet it does look pretty when it's all new. It's got that gold black. I don't know. If it were mine, I'd paint the whole thing white so I could see the first drop of oil that leaked and fix it, but that's just me. Alright, this is Geo Jeff, and I hope this was entertaining. I hope it's a good lesson on if you're at the wrecking yard wondering what parts work and what parts don't work. And if you've heard, oh, all Geos are exactly the same, and it's so far from the truth. There's so many different options.